how are you? How are things?
I don't know. I mean, are things good for like anyone, in this situation? I think anyone like right now would be like, oh yeah, things are great. So
I'm sure the Buddhists would be quite optimistic because lotus rises from the mud and swamp and all that. Uh, it's good because in a way it gives us a chance to reset and rethink about our societal norms and things that we take for granted, things that we get away with. I've been talking a lot about how the coronavirus and the commonality of it could actually build communality in people and make them understand that everybody's just the same and we should really take care of each other, stuff like that. So I think that is one good thing that's happening, that will happen from this, would be a good outcome from this, I think.
right.
But you work in journalism in India, so you would know better. How are things in your country? How are people taking it?
I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not so optimistic, in terms of like, I don't think that it's really making people understand. Like, of course, I think class difference has become a lot more stark. Of course, there's like a lot of other, like there is of course like intersectionality even in that argument, and there are like many different kinds of marginalization and stuff like that. But I think class difference is really, it's really stark right now. Like you see, like there's this big thing going on about like migrant laborers basically. So it's like the laborers who like go to a different state to like earn a living, and how now they're like stuck in these different states, and like before the lockdown they weren't given an opportunity to go home. And of course the lockdown is being like, every time we get closer to the date of things opening up, they are extending it, which I mean, like, it makes sense, because obviously, like, we're seeing that the situation is not getting any better. So, like, it needs to be extended and stuff. And they're also kind of playing it by ear and figuring out, how to go about things, like, with time and stuff. But I mean, it's really, like, the poor people who are obviously suffering the most because, they don't have, like, when you earn on the daily, and right now it's like you have no way to earn, and like you get free food from the government if you have a ration card, but then there are people who don't have a ration card, and like you still have to pay rent, and it's like a lot of
I'm sure there are a lot of people in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, countries like that, who aren't even registered as citizens. A lot of people that I've seen myself, they can't apply for a ration card or welfare or anything because they don't have identity cards or passports or anything of that. So they have nothing to prove their identity.
Exactly.
For those indigenous people, especially like in India, because now, correct me if I'm wrong, because of the Citizenship Amendment Act, everybody has to prove their citizenship as well. And a lot of people aren't able to do that. And if you're not able to do that, you can't get a ration card, can you?
Yeah, I mean, so the Citizenship Amendment, like, so that thing is like on pause right now,
Okay.
So yeah, so there were like the protests going on. Then in Delhi specifically, there were riots, and then now it's like a coronavirus lockdown. Like it literally feels like the apocalypse, like just one thing after the other. And yeah, and I mean, I have been here covering it like from the protests to like I've seen like the horrifying communal riots, and then and now I'm seeing like the lockdown and how it's really affecting people who are like at the bottom. It's just like. And it's like so many like small things which like end up into these massive problems, just like not having certain ID, or like just this little like small everyday things. And now you literally have like so many people who've died like trying to walk home, because a lot of these migrant laborers come from villages. So they're like, at least there I have a home, I don't have to worry about rent, I don't have to worry about food, so and at least we're in a better position than like starving here or being rendered homeless here and things like that. So I think they're trying to walk home, which is like kilometers, and I mean it's really it's a pathetic condition. And you also have like people who are like the poor people who are like seeking treatments at like government hospitals and stuff, and now everyone is like so overwhelmed, like the resources are so overwhelmed with coronavirus that they're not being able to pay so much attention to like people sick with other things, or it's just, it's just adding to a lot of like existing problems, but it's just making it like very, very stark and like in your face, I think. But at the same time, like, of course, you have like a section of people who in any situation would try to help people. And, like in any situation, like if something is going wrong, like they're going to go to the streets and protest. Like, there will always be a section of people going out and doing volunteering work and charity work. So that is there. But I don't see like this really changing something on, like in terms of like the basic foundation, And so like I don't see people as really empathizing in a way like which is on a whole different level compared to before. I think things are still kind of more or less being the same. So
Wouldn't you say,
I'm not
though,
optimistic. Yeah,
I get that. Yeah, I maybe you're more realistic than I am. I'm an idealist, I think. But wouldn't you say things were, as far as like premium distribution, capitalist class system is concerned, do you think things were changing a little bit even before the corona pandemic? Because you saw socialist politicians like Bernie Sanders, Jeremy Corbyn, people like that on the rise, people, even millionaires and billionaires negating capitalism, saying that it's broken, doesn't work for everyone. Would they things were changing as it was even before the crisis? Incrementally, but changing nonetheless, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. Okay, so I'll be very honest. So, like right now in India, we have a right-wing government, in place. And we
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Like no one is denying it. It's just some people say it happily and some people say it not so happily. Like there'll be some people saying like, oh yeah, we have a right-wing government right now. It's great. Like, so yeah, of course, there have been a lot of policies that, for example, I don't agree with, not everyone agrees with. And in this corona pandemic as well, like, there have been steps taken by the government which have been, very good. But at the same time, like, there has been a lot of, like events, like, it's, like, so for example, we had, like, fighter jets and stuff like them, like, sharp petals, like, on the, like, fly over and, like, sharp petals on people. And it's like, that does not help, like, that doesn't help people, like, who are actually still suffering on the ground, and the money that you spent on making that happen.
What's the point of that?
Yeah, so we've had, like, many things like that, like, so there was this thing where, so the first day that we had of curfew was like a trial curfew thing. So, so we had like one day of lockdown kind of thing before they actually announced the nationwide lockdown. And in that one day, like, so, the Prime Minister asked people to go out and clap, like, not to go out and clap, to clap like from inside their homes and balconies, to clap for like health workers and basically essential service providers, Yeah. And and then there were people who took out parades, like, in the midst of coronavirus, like, took out like parades and whatever. And then there was this thing of like lighting diyas, like candles or whatever, like diya, like lamps, okay, in the evening for, again, like similar reason, like, and it's like, okay, it brings people together, shows unity and all of that. But then again, like, the sharp petal thing, like, it's like, these are shows, it's not like
Cosmetic.
Concrete, like, steps,
Cosmetic.
taken. Yeah, exactly. It seems more like a marketing kind of thing. Like for example, now we have a fund, okay, which the Prime Minister has asked people to donate to. Okay, Prime Minister has asked the public to donate to this fund, okay, for like coronavirus and stuff. And it's called PM Cares. Okay. Like, why does it need to be branded about the Prime Minister? Do you know what I mean? So, like, but anyway, so, there are like these problems that, for example, I have. But at the same time, sorry, I just finished my point. So, at the same time, like, the approval ratings for our Prime Minister have only gone up. Like some, like, I think New York Times or someone, like, there's a survey abroad and they've seen like over, like, if you see like from November when the protest started or whatever to like right now, the approval ratings have gone up. So again, like, I don't see how things are changing basically. Like, no matter what happens, it's like somehow the majority seems to be very happy, so I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean, Donald Trump's the president as well, people like him in America. So, yeah, right-wing politics, identity politics has been on the rise in the world as well. No denying that. If I was to play the devil's advocate for a minute, talking about the Indian government, it is, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong, that decriminalization of LGBTQ and identification of LGBTQ took place under this government, didn't it?
Yeah, but that's the thing. The government had nothing to do with it.
That was probably, like, in the eyes of the world, it was probably one of the best things that's ever happened in India, in the Indian Republic. So that was massive, and the credit went to the government. And you're saying it shouldn't have, because...
No, the government, that's the thing, like, people don't understand. So technically the thing with India, okay, like the idea that our democracy rests on is the fact that our judiciary, the government, like, we have like 3 different arms, right, of a democracy, right? So like our Supreme Court functions independently of the government, like, I mean, our courts function independent of the government, and what's going on there. So yeah, so these were petitions filed by citizens. It went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court ruled that, same-sex relations cannot be illegal, basically, and so and the government stayed silent, in terms of these petitions. They did not fight the judgment, they could have filed maybe like a petition against that, but they did not. They basically kind of stayed out of it. And this fight has been going on for very long. It's not just the right-wing government right now. We also had the Congress before this, which people would say is more liberal, But yeah, even the Congress, like, they do not say anything for or against, they were like very quiet. We had some BJP ministers, speak against homosexuality, but then we had some BJP ministers speak for it also, obviously like that was much less in number, but but the government really played no role in this. It was just the activists. But what happened after that is that the government brought in a transgender bill, which was turned into an act, which the transgender people were completely against, and they fought it tooth and nail, okay, and still it got passed as an act. And they said that, and they called it the transgender protection of freedom rights or whatever. Like, that's kind of the full form of the act, and it makes no sense because it completely violates transgender people and their rights in every way. So and that got passed into an act, so, and that was done by the government, so yeah, it's really, I mean, it's like when people outside think that it's a government, that's really like, it's sad for all the activists and all the people who actually fought for it, and like for so many years, but I mean, I can see how like it looks like that on the outside, because people think governments are always in charge.
Yeah, because people give credit to the state no matter what happens. They say, "Oh, the state did this, the state did that." Sometimes it's individual struggles that make things happen. I get, like, the apartheid, for example. That makes sense. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit. I mean, it's a stark contrast that LGBTQ is decriminalized, which is brilliant, but being a religious minority, it's not criminalized, but it's frowned upon in India, or so it seems to an outsider. What is that about? Like, if you're a religious minority, is it safe for you to be in India?
I mean, I think right now the religious minority would say like no, I mean, especially, I mean, for Muslims, in this country, it's not, I mean, it's not easy. It's very difficult. I think things that I won't even think about that, like people tell me, like, for example, I have a friend who says that when she called an Uber, right? And the person said, and like, like, whatever, he had her name or whatever, and he was like, I'm not going to ferry terrorists, and since then she stopped calling Ubers, and she gets someone else to like book the Uber for her, because she doesn't want them to know her name, because and I was like, yeah, like, that makes sense, because even if they take you, like, someone may not say something over the phone, but they may take you somewhere, or like something might happen. But it's like these things that, I, for example, like I take for granted. And then, I speak to some of these people, and then you realize like how different the lived reality is. And again, like I'm very much a part of the majority here, in terms of like I'm very highly privileged in terms of like my religion and caste. And so, of course, I would to say like, oh, things are very nice for everyone. Like that would be extremely like it's not even my place to say that. I can only say that from whatever I've heard from people, from my impression, from also like being a reporter on the ground, it's not easy. And I mean, I saw the riots as well, right? Like it happened right here in Delhi, and I was here like covering it. So yeah, like I mean, I would say that it is kind of a scary situation. I don't know if that would be true for all the states, but right now where I am, whatever I have seen, and also like if you just see nationally overall, the laws being framed right now and stuff, it's not great. It's definitely not great. So yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned that how we have our own personal perception, and sometimes our perception comes from a place of privilege. And that is true with the pandemic and the quarantine as well. Because if you look at celebrities and billionaires, and they live in like palaces, and for them, quarantine it's not that difficult. And I was talking to somebody from Bangladesh the other day, and they were saying that in Bangladesh, and that's true in some parts of India and Pakistan as well, some people have families living in a couple. So it's like mom and dad, all the siblings, wives, husbands, daughters, everybody crammed in a couple of rooms. And some people, for them, that is their reality of the quarantine, and that's very difficult.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I've been in quarantine. We've been in quarantine for 2 months now, more or less. Yeah.
But I mean, I go out because I'm reporting. But in terms of like having a social life, yes, yeah.
I hope you take precautions when you do.
I do take precautions, but it's like I feel like you don't like nobody knows. Like I don't think there's a way to know. Like, am I doing everything right? Like the other day I heard about another reporter like catching the virus, and she said that she always took precautions all the time. You
never know. You never know.
Exactly. And I feel like so many of the things like we do to kind of just calm ourselves, like you see someone cough and you immediately go for the sanitizer. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just to like calm yourself. It doesn't, like, do you know what I mean? So I don't know. And like these things, like, for example, my safety ritual is like a certain way, right? Someone else's safety ritual. Like, so I met this another reporter guy, right? And he was like constantly like spraying like on his shoes and like everything, like everywhere. He was constantly like spraying the sanitizer, like, after we got done reporting. And, and he didn't want to like touch anything plastic or whatever, and I am not like that. Okay. I'm not like, he was doing certain things and I was like, shit, like maybe I should do that too. But for example, I haven't ordered food from outside since the lockdown happened. I have been cooking myself. It's been a journey, but but it's like I have been avoiding ordering from outside like completely. But then, like then he was like, you want to like order food from somewhere, and I was like, no, like, it's in the lockdown. So it's like everyone has like their own sort of rituals in terms of like what makes them feel protected. But it's like, who knows? Like, who the fuck knows? I don't know. Like, you can do certain things, but I don't know. Like, you don't know how exactly the virus can come or who it's coming with.
True.
Like,
if it's airborne, not airborne, I don't know, man. Some people say that if you take food from outside, you microwave it, and then that sterilizes it a little bit, then you can eat it. I don't know. You can never be sure. I want to talk a little bit about, like, we talked about quarantine and how we've been quarantined for like a month and a half, 2 months now. I want to talk about Kashmir, because we have to talk about Kashmir. So Kashmiri people, they've been in sort of a quarantine-like situation for about 10 months now.
Yeah.
And it's weird that nobody's talking about it now. Like in the world, really. Like everybody there was a time last year that everybody was talking about Kashmir. Things haven't really changed there, but we've stopped talking about them. Why is that? Do you think that we as people, as societies, have narrow bandwidth of memory? We tend to forget things easily?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I mean, I have gone through so many news cycles just in like the past few months. And you really see that like people really have like a short-lived memory. Like of course, there are some people talking about Kashmir and how, lockdown situation and stuff. Also during the protests, when there would be clashes with the police, right? Then people would be like, like when 370 happened, and some people were saying that this is not, like someone had said, I can't remember, but that was like, so, I mean, it really stuck out. Like basically they said that this is not going to lead to the Indianization of Kashmir. It's going to lead to the Kashmirization of India. Okay. And then when the clashes of the police and stuff were happening, and there was tear gas, and there was, like all of these things, and people were saying like, see, it's like the India is turning into Kashmir, basically. That's how the government is dealing with its people, kind of thing. And yeah, but then I mean, but yeah, like people, there are some people, there will be some people who will keep talking about this. Like there'll be some people who now also they're going to talk about NRCCA, like when they talk about like why is it difficult to get so many people tested, but you can test all these people when it comes to citizenship, like then you're not going to have a logistical problem, but right now to test them you're having a logistical problem. So there will be these people who will be talking about these issues, but collectively when you see like, no, yeah, people's memory is very, like people get tired of caring, like we had, like I had learned about this in Cardiff as well, like one of the subjects, one of the chapters that we had, it was basically about what is it called, like compassion fatigue. Yeah, it's called compassion fatigue. So people are tired of like caring about the same issue, because you care and then you try to do something about it, and then still when it continues to be the same, you kind of it just feels shitty, you kind of just give up and you want to move on to something else which makes you feel like maybe you can do something or just feel better.
Do you think compassion fatigue is triggered by the way we live our lives, capitalist ways of life as well? Because
I mean, I mean, I think generally it's like, I think that's how we are as people, like you get tired of kind of,
because you get exhausted, because all you do is like you work and you consume, and when all of that is said and done, there's very little time and energy left for being compassionate towards things and causes, doesn't it?
I mean, but I think that people generally, I think we get tired of like the same things, but I feel like it should not be like, if governments took better care of people, if governments were able to take better care of people, okay. Like, I don't know, if I was to become a politician tomorrow, I'd have a different perspective or something. But it's like, if governments took care of people, we would not need people to be compassionate to each other. Do you know what I mean? Like anything that's happening right now, like people suffering and all of that, there should be a system in place to take care of everyone. It should not be like us having to go out on the streets and donate. Of course, I mean, those who have more, they should be willing to share. But but I mean, again, who's like that? From whatever I've seen, like people who have privilege, end of the day, they want to protect that privilege. Like you go out, I'll be very honest, you go out, you see someone hungry, right? But then when you come back home, that's going to make you grateful for how much food you have, that you don't have to go through that. It's not necessary that like because you have food, you're going to give everything to those who are hungry. Like our minds don't, people are, I feel like in some ways, yes, we can be very compassionate, but at this end of the day, we also like, we are very possessive about the things we have,
Yeah, that's our archetype. We're hunter-gatherers. So obviously there's going to be a dominance hierarchy there, and people are going to take care of themselves more so than they do of others.
Yeah.
I understand your point. I understand that the government should be, to an extent, the state should be omnipotent, so we don't have to look at the good graces of to feed the poor. Philanthropy is like treating leukemia paracetamol. I think it's not good enough, Would you say in the modern times we've made the states more lean? We've given more control to individuals and taken a lot of control and a lot of potency from the state, so the state can't really provide for everyone anymore, globally speaking?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't know, like, being in India, like I still feel like the state does have a lot of power.
India isn't a social state, is it?
No, yeah. I mean, sorry, which are you talking about, like specific countries, or what is it?
I'm just saying, like, India has never been a social state. I mean,
Yeah.
I know there are
It calls
some
itself a socialist state. It kind of tried a few
Okay.
states
Oh,
tried, but
I didn't know that. I
yeah,
didn't know that.
yeah. It's called socialist on paper, like not
Okay.
constitution. Yeah, this yeah. We had a few states, like for example, in Bengal, we had the Communist Party in power for like 35 years, but it's but it's like anyway, like over on the whole, it is a capitalist society. But yeah, go on.
So I can give example of the UK. So in the UK, healthcare is free, housing is free, and it was quite decent a couple of decades ago, but that has deteriorated. And you see how NHS is. You don't have to do a lot of. You just look up NHS on Google, and you'll see all the crises summed up very perfectly. So the potency that the states had is on decline, and now you see like the states don't even have much. Like it's individuals that have more. So in America, I think if you look at people like Bezos, they're more powerful than the government. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why when a crisis like the COVID-19 hits, states don't have enough to provide for everyone, and they have to look at individuals, and then it comes to their discretion if they want to help out or not.
Yeah, but I don't know, like that's a good question, but it's a complex question, right? Because there's been an argument for a long time that like it's actually the corporations which are in power, not our governments. Like our governments serve our corporations, and like basically the rich peoples, because they give money to the governments. They help them get elected. And like everyone is sort of complicit in this. Like it's also like people who own these corporations who also own like media houses, and
entering the realms of conspiracy theories now.
No, but it's
you're right.
This is but I mean to some extent this is what does happen. And of course, like in certain cases you can see more direct links, in certain cases you don't see direct links, but in certain cases you do see direct links. You know what I mean? Is our government, is the UK government not going to, like our UK politicians, not going to do what they can to help Rupert Murdoch? If like Rupert Murdoch comes to them for help, are they gonna be like, no? Like, yeah, we know you own all the news channels in the world, but like, no, that's not gonna happen.
Do you know Donald Trump gave the contract to make ventilators only to General Electric and no other company? So legally, GE is the only company in the United States that can make ventilators.
Right.
And ventilators are the new gold. There's like a ventilator gold rush happening. So that is like billions of dollars right there for GE.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, so we have like there are certain.
So I get that. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are certain things like here as well, there was this whole controversy about this, Rafale aircraft, which, the contract was given to basically like this, like this businessman basically who's, prominent. And I mean, so there are like those, things that come up, and, and then there will be people saying that it's our government served by corporations. So, we're ultimately like voting for corporations rather than like governments and all of that. But again, it's like, I mean, I don't know, I don't think it's like our governments are like so helpless. I think it's kind of, it's all like, it's all kind of like going together. If we have corporations which are more powerful than the government, like of course the government can do something about that, but it doesn't. It can like tax people, it can lay certain ground rules for industries, it can do things to make things more balanced and more even, but then they're not going to do that because, it's rather maybe like serves their own interest to not do that then. And you see governments, so many times governments in different countries have bailed out banks, by spending a lot of money. They have bailed out like, huge corporations, and they've had the money for that.
So recently, Wall Street and New York Stock Exchange got bailouts. So did the British Airways from their respective governments, and those were like some hefty bailouts there. And now, according to WHO, they need $8 billion to come for the vaccination, to aid with the process of vaccination, and they're collecting charity for that. There's no bailout coming from the United States government or the EU or the UK. But when it came to bailouts for these meta corporations, they came just like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Some
It's
might argue
literally
because forming
yeah.
forming a government or participating in elections, that's an expensive game as well. So you need strong,
Of course.
powerful
Yeah.
allies like that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I believe that when governments, when they come into power, they're not seeing like, okay, what is the best job I can do? You know, they're thinking, how do I get re-elected next time? You know. And so, you know, they have to help some certain people or certain things and hurt some people and certain things, you know, depending on what's going to get them re-elected, you know. And I think every government does this, and that's why things are as fucked as it is, you know. And what is sad is that sometimes these things do work, like, you know, putting up huge displays of like, you know, doing these events and shows rather than actually helping people on the ground. Like sometimes these things, like, it does work, you know. It has been working massively, like, for this government so far. And like, you know, like even when demonetization happened and it hurt so many people, but people were like, we have a prime minister who's gonna like just do things, you know, rather than the one we had before who was like very quiet. And you know, like the previous government was seen as inactive. That was the problem, you know. Yeah. And this government is seen as like, okay, so you know, at least they're doing all the things, even if a lot of those things, like, some people think you should not be doing. You know, like even then they see like, okay, you know, like this guy, he's a man, like, you know, he's just gonna like do something about everything. And they have actually done so much, you know. They have actually like changed laws. I mean, just demonetization in itself, you know. And right now they're doing this lockdown for this coronavirus thing as well. So, you know, they're seen as very active. And although like some of those decisions I see as harmful, you know, like other people don't, and it is somehow working for them. So yeah.
So we'll conclude with this, Suri. Like, people in India or other parts of the world listening to you right now, what would you say to them? What should be their take from the COVID-19 crisis?
Wow, that's a heavy loaded question.
Here you go.
What should we take from coronavirus? I don't know. I mean, I mean, for me, the you know, the takeaway is like, I don't know. I think it's making everything, like the coronavirus along with the lockdown, it's making everything very stark. You know, it's making the world's problem stark. It's making our personal problems stark because we have to spend so much time with ourselves in our heads, right?
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, so hopefully this can lead to, you know, I don't know, like hopefully this can lead to some good, whether it's like self-awareness, whether it's, you know, more awareness about the world around us and us somehow finding more ways to help. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully like all this awareness is going to lead to some good, basically.
Maybe this will reset societal perception of things, you know.
I hope so. I mean, here
I've
seen in this conversation that I don't feel very optimistic. So let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully good things would happen soon. If there is a future, it should be a bright one, I think. Thank you very much for your time, Suri. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time, Suri. It's been a pleasure. Go do your grocery shopping, but stay safe.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. Stay safe. Bye.
Ta-da.